when God tells you to do something, it might upset a lot of people. You know, you may not see it as it upsetting people in the beginning, but later on, you're going to get that, aha, okay, I understand. People who, they will sit there and they'll abuse you. They'll do all sorts of foul things to you, and then they'll try to silence you after they do it to you. Because their goal, they want you to take the abuse behind closed doors and be silent about it. They want to be able to abuse you without anyone intervening, without anyone being aware of what they're doing. That's why most of the times, many of you guys that deal with abuse, that's why most of the times you are isolated. As in, like, they'll try to isolate you. They'll try to turn as much people against you, or they'll try to turn you against a bunch of people, and they'll try to keep you separated and keep you as the odd one. The one where nobody wants to be around, nobody wants to talk to, the one that everybody's mistreating, the one that everybody's scorning. And they do this, they set it up that way so you can sit there in silence, take their abuse, and have no one to talk to about it. And then they can get away with what they're doing. And then they get upset when you have a voice, or when you find a way to tell people what's going on, or to tell your testimony or your story. Then they get upset. People do things to people thinking that no one's gonna talk, and they'll get mad at you for speaking up. If you don't want to ever be a perpetrator of someone's story, then don't mistreat them, don't abuse them. Don't do the things that you're doing and then expect for people to not find out. Especially when you're dealing with a child of God. When you're dealing with a child of God, best believe it doesn't matter what you do. Somebody's gonna find out. Whether it be the pastor, whether it be the church, whether it be the congregation, whether it be a ministry, whether it be a book, whether it be a movie. Point of the matter is, someone's gonna find out what you did. If you don't ever want to be the perpetrator, then don't be. You have a decision, you have a choice, just like we have a choice. But the thing is, many of them, they don't think they're going to get found out. That's the problem. They think that they're going to be able to do what they're doing and no one is going to be aware of it, and no one is going to know. They just expect a child of God to sit there and keep being that punching bag and not speak up. And then when you speak up, they want to get upset at you. Here we are reading about Joseph's brothers trying to kill him and then selling him. Here we are reading about what Haman did to Esther. Here we are reading about what Pharaoh did to Moses. Here we are reading all these testimonies, but they want children of God in this day and age to be silenced and to not say nothing. That's narcissistic abuse. And that's a form of gaslighting. God will push you watching this to tell your story, and He will show you how to do it. And best believe, when it's time for you to tell your story, it is going to upset some people. And guess what? We've all been a perpetrator in someone's story. Hey, I'm not perfect. I'm pretty sure people have stories about me from childhood, from back in the day. You know, Stephanie did, Stephanie did that. And guess what? They have all right to tell their story. And you know what I'm going to do? I'm going to take accountability. Yeah, I beat that person up. Yeah, I stole from that person. Yeah, this, yeah, that. I have no problem taking accountability. You know why? Because that was my choice in that moment. That's the decision I made in that moment. And I have to take accountability for that. But these people, they don't want to take accountability. You know why they don't want to take accountability? Here's the number one reason why people don't like to take accountability when they are the perpetrator in your story. It's because they're the same person. They have not changed. They're either still committing the same crime, doing the same foul things, And that's why they don't want to take accountability, because they don't want people to know what they're currently doing. See, a person that did it in the past and that has changed, and you're telling your story, they're not going to have a problem with you telling your story. They may be a little bit triggered or annoyed, but they're going to understand that that's your testimony, that's your story, and that's a decision that they made, and they have to own up to the consequences of it being told to people. But most of the times when people are upset that you're telling your story or your testimony, it's because they're still committing that crime, or they're still doing whatever it is that they did to you to others. That's why it's so bothersome to them, especially pertaining to witchcraft. Listen, people don't want to be found out if they're doing witchcraft, especially if they're a high-ranking witch and they have this false image, portraying themselves as perfect, or they're not going to want to be found out. So best believe, like, some of you guys, when God gives you instructions and tells you to do something, it may upset some people, especially if it's pertaining to telling your testimony. It may upset some people. That's the thing. It's like people like to get their hands dirty, and then they get upset when you refuse to be a punching bag for them. God may ask you to do some things that it may not make sense to you, and then you may find out later on that it has to do with your testimony, your story, your life, and you may be like, because listen, had God told you what the outcome was going to be and who was going to get upset and who was going to try to come up after you, we'd probably back away. That's why he doesn't tell us everything. He just gives us instructions step by step, but he won't give us the full picture. He'll tell us what to do step by step, and then we find out later on at the end. We find out later on. But if he tells you to speak up, or whatever he tells you to do, just listen. Just listen. Because we're not people's punching bags. We're not. Nor are we anyone's doormat that they can just walk all over and then try to silence us after they walk all over us. No. Abuse is not okay. Especially when it's abuse that's been going on for years. It's not okay. God's going to instruct you to get on board with your testimony. It's going to be uncomfortable, but somebody has to tell it. And no one can tell your testimony better than you. So get prepared for it. It's that season.